For many years, the African American community has been plagued with high crime, mass incarceration, drugs, unemployment, poor health care, and a substandard education system. There are many factors that contribute to these conditions and the deterioration of the family structure, but the overall cause is due to African Americans trying to assimilate in an economic structure that's set up for them to fail. So we must ask ourselves, what can each one of us do to affect change? Here are our voices.
When you look at it in a contemporary sense, you have to go back to our history, and of course our history of slavery. One of the most unique situations about what we call the peculiar institution, what made slavery so peculiar, was the actual separation of families. When you watch a movie like 12 Years a Slave, that's a perfect example of the worst part of slavery. It wasn't necessarily the total brutality, but if you remember the scene where the mother was taken away from the daughter and entire families were just disseminated across the South. One of the big issues that created was the relationships between the man and the woman.
I think the media, you know what I mean, is really targeting women right now. You know, they reality shows is, you know, making them feel like they can be independent and they don't need no man. You know what I mean? Or when they do get a man, you know what I mean, they want to really play a man role.
People tend to sometimes ignore the fact there's no positive male role model for the young woman too. She never sees the model of what a husband should be, of what a father should be.
To assume that role, if I had an example to follow. All I know is a broken home. So when I get involved with a man, I'm trying so hard to be a strong, independent woman that sometimes I don't let the man be a man.
Part of what we're missing today is because the man is removed from the home, women are having to do both, be both the father, the mother, and the father. She's having to work longer and longer and longer hours to make ends meet, which means we have more latchkey kids. Those are children who are coming home after the hours, between the hours of 3 and 5, who are most likely at home for 2 or 3 hours by themselves.
If a woman cannot look up to the man, she really don't want him. You know, when you look symbolically at what we call conventional sex, it's the man on the top, the woman on the bottom, and she's looking up to her man.
Black males that's in jail, you know, and you got black males that's struggling, you know, from getting out of jail, black males on parole, you know what I mean, black males with low income jobs, you know, and once they get to that situation, then, you know, women looking at them different, you know what I'm saying? So then that's when the woman come out of her role, and I think they feel like she can, like, you know, talk down to a man when really, you know, a man supposed to lead the household.
When we were children growing up, the father was the disciplinarian in the home, and it was expected that around dinner time you would galvanize around the dinner table, and it was at the dinner table that the mothers and fathers would ask their children how their day was.
Back in the day, there was only one television. At one point, there was only one radio. Everybody would gather around the radio and listen to the programs on the radio. Then finally, when TV came along, everybody sat in the living room because that's where the television was, and everybody watched the same program, which allowed for everybody to talk and mingle together, watch the TV together, laugh together. And so the things that allowed us to be motivated to do better, we don't have that kind of structure anymore.
I'm seeing young men and young women, even if they're not together in the home, making an effort to assume their roles. A lot of young men, for whatever reason, the relationship between them and their child's mother isn't working out, but they're at least trying to not just spend time, but add some financial support and be there for their children. I think there's more of a tone of that now than it was, say, 15, 20 years ago, because we saw what the result of with absent fathers.
We got to do it like as a whole, you know, we got to start having like, you know, programs, community, you know, we got to really come together as black males and really address it, you know, bring it to the light.
When there are people within our community that will help foster healthy relationships and help foster mentor programs, I believe that makes an impact within our children's lives.
And until we decide that we're going to come back to God, we're going to come back to the family, that they got the father in the home, the mother in the home, they're married, they ain't living together, they're married, they've gone to the altar, and he's put a ring on it, they got the license to show it.
I'm just motivated to keep moving forward. Some people aren't motivated. Sometimes it's hard to stay motivated, but you just have to think about your goals and where you want to be in life and just press towards the mark.
When you start seeing people in your area that's made it to the top, then that becomes, if you got any kind of inner incentive, then you got the will to want to be at the top.
We're actually a group of black people in this world that can afford to fix our problems, but we have to do it. And part of that comes from us making those sacrifices. And I hope our generation is the one that gets back to that point to where we know we will sacrifice and we will put our families before our fashion. We will put our children before our cars. And that's what we have to do. But that sacrifice isn't easy, but it's necessary.